First of all, I'm so thankful. Thank you for inviting me to be here. This is incredible. I think I felt more nervous to come here. I was like, what do I wear? David's always dressed so cool, and they're young, and I was like, I don't have to wear heels, and I don't have to wear a skirt. And I'm like, this is awesome. So I'm super, super excited to be here. I'm very thankful for the way that Coastal Church has been a part of my life and just become my family. So I'm really thankful for that. And Pastor Chris and David have been a huge part of our journey, as well as Pastor Dave and Cheryl and the entire team. So super excited to be here. Okay, I'm just looking at that clock that you showed me. But first, I want to tell you about, I don't know if you saw, both David and Justin were wearing our legacy chain. So I wanted to quickly tell you about that because I actually have something very special tonight to give away to you guys. I emailed Pastor Chris the other day and I was like, hey, what do you think if we do a Regen legacy chain? And he was like, yeah. So these legacy chains, I just want to tell you, were inspired by my dad. You saw in the video, my dad passed away. He passed away on Christmas Day, 2013. He was diagnosed with terminal cancer in 2009, and the doctors gave him like 4 months to live. My dad was 48 years old. He was wicked. Like, he was super cool guy, so young, super fun, and we always had a great time. We were really close. But after those first 4 months passed, he recognized that his perspective really changed. He was like, all these things that I used to complain about, like I have to sit in traffic, or I have to go to work, or I have to clean my garage. He was like, no, he's like, I get to do that. He's like, I'm still alive. And so every day after that kind of doctor's diagnosis was all the things that we get to be grateful for. And for the next 4.5 years that he lived, which was incredible, he was healthy and healed and whole, and he spread this message. So when he passed away, I wanted to really honor his message and keep that going, because I think it's amazing to start each day by saying, what do I get to do today? My parents had a program called Relationship Lifeline. He would say, who do I get to be a lifeline to today? Who am I going to impact today? And so when I first started working in the downtown east side, I had a crazy job, and I had to learn how to stamp keys. So everybody who would move into our building, I had to like punch a room number on their key. And I was like, hey, if I can do that, then the guys that I work with could totally do that. So each of these necklaces, each of these legacy chains have been hand stamped by a man who is transitioning out of homelessness on the downtown east side. These ones also we work with Union Gospel Mission, guys who are coming out of recovery. And so they're able to work at their own pace in a safe and comfortable environment. And they get to create something really beautiful with their hands. Also, all the proceeds go back into their programs at Holway House. So they're contributing, they're a part of it, and they get to do it. So I wanted to give these away. I have 2 of them here, and don't worry, there'll be some downstairs afterwards. But I thought I wanted to also at the same time invite you guys to our family picnic on Saturday. So, is it okay if I ask them to pull out their phones? Yeah, okay. If you want to enter the contest, David is downstairs, I believe, and we are going to run a Instagram contest. So if you go to @HolwayHouse up there and you tag somebody in the photo, you'll be entered. And then, is that good? Yeah, everybody can see that. And then if you go to I Get to Legacy Project, which should be the next one, Dave or Juliana, I'm not sure who's down there, I Get to Legacy Project, and just tag somebody in the last photo. I think it says pop-up, because I was going to be here tonight with a pop-up. Then you'll be entered. He's going to run a generator downstairs. A generator? An Instagram contest generator thing. But I wanted to let you guys know about that because they're super cool, and honestly it's been such an incredible project that I genuinely feel blessed that I get to do it, working with guys who really struggle. Some of them struggle with anxiety, some of them have different mental health issues or addiction issues, and maybe working a 9 to 5 isn't possible for them, but to be able to come and do something, they want to do something and earn some extra money, as well as be able to support something great. They're very proud. So I'll share a little bit more about that in a minute. Is that enough time? Did I give enough time? Are we good? David, what do you think? He can hear. Not yet? Okay. Fun fact about me, I have 2 dogs, Jake and Sophie, and they're awesome. And they come to Holway House every day. And they do puppy therapy with our guys, which is super cool. I thought there was a picture of them. I was like, did I bring a picture? Like, I'm not that much of a fur mama. But yeah, it's really fun. And as Juliana was saying, you'll get to see some photos of the interns because it's been a huge impact on our guys. So we love having the interns with us. Part of the Legacy Project also is having people have an opportunity to share their stories. I'm going to share tonight about how my deepest pain brought out my greatest purpose. And when we're able to give people an opportunity to speak their story and speak their truth, it really gives us a chance to know them and to be able to understand that every single person has a story. My dad used to always say is like compassion comes from understanding that every person has a story. Often what we see, obviously in the downtown east side, we see a lot of negative behavior and negative outward stuff, and it's because there's a story there. You know, what goes in must come out. And the stories that I've heard working in the downtown east side have really taught me not to judge people, not to judge you where you're at, and not to judge anybody else, because we're all walking this out, and often we haven't had somebody there to support us. So yeah. The other thing I'm love to give away to you guys is we have, oh, did you do it? Whoa. Woo woo. Who are you? Who are you? You got to come and get it because I can't throw it. It'll hurt. For sure it'll hurt. These are made out of washers. All right, I've got one brass and one stainless steel. What do you like? Yeah, there you go. Jenna? Yay!
Denise. Hi.
Would you like to say a speech?
No.
No, okay. There you go. Enjoy, guys. Look, and they're both serving. That's amazing. Awesome. Okay, very cool. I also have some complimentary passes to the family picnic this Saturday that you guys are all invited to. Earl's does a huge barbecue for us. We'll be down at Stanley Park, so I'll keep those downstairs for you guys if you want to come. I want to just start by sharing a little bit. Pastor Chris said I come from a great family, and it's true. I really do. I grew up in a great Christian home, third generation of believers, and I remember sitting in pews just like this growing up. I actually also went to Relate Church in my young days, so also family there. But I remember hearing people come up on stage just like this and sharing their stories of their massive transformation. And, you know, I used to be like a prostitute in the ditch, and I was dying, and then I got saved, and Jesus turned my life around, and it was like so cool and so amazing. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, my parents were missionaries, and then I just grew up in Sunday school. I was like, I didn't feel like I had this cool testimony, and I was always a little bit jealous. I was like, I kind of want that. And now looking back, I'm like, that's kind of stupid. I was like, why didn't I get to suffer like that? No, I had a super good childhood, and but when I was in my early days, I started to kind of have this little rebellion around 11 years old. I didn't want to just be who I was told to be. And I was always a very stubborn child. I'm a firstborn Italian girl, so it's kind of comes with the territory. So I remember my parents were kind of like rock stars in our community because they had a seminar, as I said, called Relationship Lifeline. And they literally helped save countless marriages, families, people's lives. And God used their ministry to just change families incredibly. I remember like walking through the mall and people would run up to me like, oh my goodness, you're Ron and Tina's daughter. Our family is together. And they like bring their kids over, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I'm 13 and I'm just trying to hang out at the mall. It was like super embarrassing. And I mean, I was proud of them, but I was also like I just kind of want to be normal and do my own thing. And so doing my own thing meant I started to I started smoking when I was 11, which I thought was super cool. Down at the bottom of the Relate Church parking lot, I would go hide behind the bus. Don't tell Pastor John I said that, please. I'd be so embarrassed. And then I was like driving. I wouldn't say stealing the car because it was our car, but by 12, I was like ripping around White Rock by myself in a car. Imagine seeing a 12-year-old driving a car. Please don't tell the police either, actually. I shouldn't be saying all this stuff. So I'm going through this little rebellion, and I'm having trouble, and one day I get arrested for shoplifting. And the guy actually says to me, you are so good, I had to watch the videotape 3 times to make sure you took it. And I was like, Okay, I got a little career here. And I remember my dad picking me up, and that was not, my dad was a very kind and compassionate person. That was not a good day. I found out later he actually made the police put me in the back seat of the car. They weren't going to arrest me. He just was trying to freak me out. But so I've got a great, as I said, mom was like, nope, no daughter of mine. And so she sent me on urban missions for the summer, and I went dragging my feet. But it was really smart on her part, and gave me some good foundational stuff. And now today I'm an urban missionary, so that's kind of cool. But I was still in this place where I was like, no, like I was almost like I was like dating God. I was like, and not like your Friday, Saturday night date, like, you know, the person you kind of save for like your Monday or Tuesday night. Don't lie, you all have that. You all choose the person you go out with on the Friday night. And I was kind of like keeping God on my Sunday, right? So as I go through high school and college, I was like partying and just living for myself. I just wanted to do what I wanted to do. I was still coming to church every Sunday. I still knew God loved me. I was like riding the grace train. And, you know, I'd be out Saturday night, and then I'd come to church, and I'd be sitting right over there, and I'd like go to raise my hands, and I'm like, oh, nope, all the stamps from all the bars were on my wrist. I'm like, shoot, okay, so that's not good. And don't tell Pastor Dave that. I'm just like, this is like confessions of Jenny. I'm just going to sit down, like lay down and have a counseling session. So I was just really living my life for myself. I wanted God to be my savior, but not my Lord. And I didn't want to give up control. I am a control freak. That is my true confession. I am a control freak. Angie has worked with me. She can testify. It's something I've always had, and I didn't want to give up the control. I wanted to stay in control of my life. And as you can imagine, that didn't go so well. So here I am. I'm climbing my corporate ladder. I was doing really well in my career. I'd always worked in restaurants, and so I started working for Earl's, and it was great. They were loving me because I work really hard, and so I'm getting promoted and all these Jenny accomplishments. And suddenly in 2009, my dad gets diagnosed with terminal cancer. And it was like, it knocked the wind out of me. Like, just punched me in the gut. I couldn't get up. I was like, what the heck? Like, my dad's going to die in 4 months? Like, are you kidding? And it was like, literally just rocked my world. And so my brother and I were like, hey, like, we're going to quit our jobs. Let's go travel the world. And I was like, are you kidding me? He's like, what, we're just going to sit here and wait for me to die? And we're like, well, Dad, like, don't you want to go do cool stuff? And he's like, every single day I do cool stuff. Like, I help save people's marriages. He's like, I want to live out my purpose every single day. And so, but I did decide to leave my job at that time so I could go work with my parents and help. And so I did. And Earl's was great. They actually sat down with me a few times and tried to work it out with me. And it's like, you know what, I just got to be with my family right now. And so I left, and I went, and at the same time as working in California with my parents at their seminar, my grandmother, who owns those buildings, was no longer able to take care of them. And so my brother and I decided we were going to take over. And again, we were super smart kids, and so we're like, we're going to save the downtown east side. Like, for sure, I can totally help everyone get a job. And we got there, and God was like, you're so cute. What a cute little idea. And I'm like, no, for sure, I'm good. And so we get there, and as I said in the video, when that guy died, it just like broke my heart. I'd been around the downtown east side my whole life, but I did not know that there were people literally just holed up in their rooms, hiding and isolating, and it literally broke my heart. There was nobody who knew anything about him. Like, they couldn't tell me anything, and I was like, okay, I may not be able to fix the downtown east side. I'm like, but we can help fix this. I'm like, we can build a community here. And so that's what we did. We started by saying, okay, we can. Sorry, I never have notes, and so this is actually going to mess me up. We can start something. We didn't have anything. I was like, hey, what do we have? What can we do? And it just bugged me. Like, it ate me up on the inside. Actually, Pastor Dave said a couple weeks ago, if you were here, if you want to know what your purpose is, like, find out what bugs you. And I was like mad. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, this is not supposed to happen. And so I was kind of waiting for a while. I was like, how do you start a charity? I don't know. I was like, does someone just come on and like knock on your door and hand you a check? And they're like, here you go. And I'm like, that doesn't happen. So we just started. I was like, all right, how do you like build community? How do you make friends? And because if you live in an apartment building, you know, you're not going to just go up to your neighbor and be like, knock on their door and be like, hey dude, do you want to like hang out? Or like, how do you make friends, right? How do you, and especially I work with like 85 super hardened guys. Most of them have come out of prison. So those first 2 years, we were just like getting to know them. I went from, strutting around in my little 4-inch heels and my skirt down to like I'm covered in paint and there's bed bugs and roaches and rats running around the alley. And I'm like, still to this day, the rats, I can't get over it. But I was like super humbling, and I needed that. Like I needed God to just be like, no, this isn't about you. This isn't about your accomplishments. This isn't about what you can do. In fact, like we just got to take you out of the equation here. And in that moment, I really, I started to see what he was doing. I remember one day, and I just started to feel like this calling, and I was like, this is big. Like this is too big for me, God. Like, and I started to get freaked out again, and I was like, oh. And Pastor Karen came and prayed with me down there, and she gave me this verse. There's a verse. It's Isaiah 58:10-12. And we'll put it up on the screen, but it says, "Feed the hungry and help those in trouble. Then your light will shine out from the darkness, and the darkness around you will be as bright as noon. The Lord will guide you continually, giving you water when you are dry and restoring your strength. You will be like a well-watered garden, like an ever-flowing spring. Some of you will rebuild the deserted ruins of your cities. Then you will be known as a rebuilder of walls and a restorer of homes." And that just was like, okay, this is it. Like, this is our mission. We are going to be, we're going to rebuild the deserted ruins of our cities, and we are going to restore homes. And so I was like, all right, well, God, how do we do this? And so, as I said, we started getting to know the guys. We recognized very quickly a lot of them had trouble, had felt hurt by either God or whoever represented God. So we're like, okay, we can't have a bunch of like religious activities, but we need to really meet them where we're at. And I was like, how did Jesus do that? Like, he didn't say to me like, okay, well, if you fix this and that and the other thing, then I'll love you. It was like, no, come as you are. And that was really the beginning of a relationship. And so we started with a Reconnect program. So the Reconnect was all about just come as you are. We're going to have games night because that would allow us to like kind of connect with each other and hang out. And then we started also a family dinner. As I said, I'm Italian, so you got to have dinner together. You got to eat together, right? And every time that we would turn a corner where I didn't know what to do, it was super cool because it was really God showing me like, no, you're not gonna be able to do this. For sure, you're not. Like, I'm gonna do it. So when we started the family dinner, I had connected with Quest Food Exchange, and I went for a warehouse tour. And the guy looked at me. He's like, hey, I just got this huge order in that we don't even have enough freezer space for it. I was wondering if you might be able to use it. And I was like, oh, I'm like, okay, what is it? And he's like, it's tortellini. And I was like, psh, load it up. I'm like, I can work with that. I know how to cook tortellini for sure. And so that's what we had for our first family dinner. And for quite a few more after that, and because it was free and delicious. And so, but it took a while. It took a while to change that culture. And so we just had to work at reconnecting with people and building those relationships organically. If I come at Angie and I'm like, hey, let's be friends. I'm like, but I don't know your shoes. And I'm like trying to fix her, and I come at her with an agenda. That's not love anymore. So we had to have no agenda and just be there to really connect with people. And so, we all get our backs up, right? When you point out my flaws, I'm going to get my back up and I'm going to pull away from you. So we just wanted to be there and love them. And then the second thing that we really saw was a lack of a sense of purpose and value. And again, we worked with 85 men. I'm working with guys who have come fresh out of prison, just tattied up, and people who are struggling with addiction, mental health issues, some of whom have been, struggling with poverty for a long time. And we had to come to a place where we recognized there was so much shame. One guy said to me, he actually came on TV with me once, and he was like, I could never have even imagined him saying this on television, but he said, I failed so much in my life that I don't want to try anymore. Like, I'm sick of disappointing people. I'm sick of disappointing myself. And it just like painted such a clear picture for me. So we wanted to create opportunities for people to feel successful, for people to like contribute to. Every single person has gifts and talents. God has put them inside of us. And when we don't get to use them, we start to like lose that sense of value and our sense of purpose. So we started programs like art, and I think I have a couple pictures up there actually. Sorry, my slides are for sure not in order. There we go. Yeah, you can see awesome people who come to Holy House, like Angie and Pastor Fari and the interns. But we started doing programs where they got to feel successful. Actually, if you know Chef David Robertson at the Dirty Apron, he was our neighbor, and he came over and he's like, yeah, we should do cooking classes. And I was like, oh, that'd be awesome. And so I was like, but I don't want you teaching my guys how to like flambe, and then my building gets burned down. I'm like, so how about we learn in a crock pot? So we did. So we learned in crock pots. It was really safe. And we got to make some really cool, nostalgic food. So this was a journey of God helping me understand that this wasn't going to be about me. And so much humbling happened that because like I mentioned, I was living in two worlds before. So I was like, I want to enjoy the world, but I also like want God to protect me and love me and all the good stuff. But I never would make that commitment onto one side or the other. And there's that. I used to cringe every time a pastor would say that verse, Revelation 3:16 through 18. So because you are lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, I'm about to spit you out of my mouth. And I'd be like, oh, and some of the translations say vomit. And I'm like, oh gosh, God's going to vomit me. I'm like, oh my gosh, for sure that's me. Like I knew. I was like, for sure that's me. Like, because I was living totally in both worlds. So this was a process of like, as Pastor Chris was saying, I had to like start making a decision. Like, where do I want to be? Where do I want to live? And through all this time, my dad's cancer was going up and down and like, oh, it's clean. We get a clean report. And then it would come back and it would be worse and it spread. And then you get a clean report. So it's this going through this major roller coaster of emotions while trying to start Holy House was such a get down on your knees moment. It was just such a I had to be so reliant on God. Before I was good at stuff. Like I was good at school, I was good at restaurants, I was good at career, and now I had to like learn all fresh and be super, super reliant on God. And so one day this was my come to your knees moment. I was in my office and I had this little office and I had a little apartment sized stove. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna make split pea soup. So this is really stupid for two reasons, because I hate split pea soup. I think it's gross. Like it's super mushy and ham and stuff. And it was summer. So I still look back and I'm like, why was I making split pea soup? So my office is super hot. I'm like sweating. I've got 4 little burners and I've got 4 pots going at once. And I'm literally like, I'm probably getting my sweat in the soup, which is gross. I'm like, this is awful. Ham is everywhere. I can't keep, it was terrible. And the 4 burners are going, and I can't get the soup to thicken, so I'm stressing out, and I'm trying to turn it up, and then all of a sudden I turn around and I knock over one of the pots, and I was like, are you kidding me? And now I'm like angry. I'm like, are you kidding me? There's split pea soup everywhere. It's all over the wall. It's over the floors, and I dropped to my knees, and there was one of my bad days. We had gotten some bad news about my dad, and I just remember being like, God, this is too much. And I'm like, I'm literally like down here, I'm just like scrubbing. And imagine thick split pea soup. Like it's not coming up with a paper towel. So I'm just like, and tears are coming down. And I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, remember when I had a cool life and I didn't work in the downtown east side? And I'm like, just like having this little pity party. I'm like, and I used to wear high heels. I'm like, I used to go out on Saturday nights. And now I'm here making soup. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. And then I just kind of like was kind of quiet for a while. And I'm like, okay, like, I know I'm having a pity party. So I'm like cleaning, and all of a sudden there's a knock at my door, and it's Gordy. And Gordy is one of my guys in the Avalon. And Gordy used to go binning. He would go like dumpster diving for stuff. And he would always go to like the West End or even to West Van and find cool stuff. And he comes in and he's holding, lo and behold, this pot. Literally this pot. And I'm like, he's like, hey, and he's kind of looking at me as I'm on the floor with tears in my eyes. He's like, sorry. He's like, but I just found this pot outside of a restaurant. I was in the West End. He's like, and I thought maybe you could use it for family dinner. And I'm like, like literally just in this moment where God knew I needed him to like encourage me that he had called me to do this, that he had called me to this purpose, and he wasn't leaving me there alone. And so we still use this to this day at Holy House. It's awesome. I can fit everything in there, and it fits across 4 burners. It's great. I've never dropped it. That was the last time I ever made split pea soup. And in fact, it was so bad that one of the guys brought me down a recipe afterwards. It was like, I was so embarrassed. I'm like, I'm sticking to my pasta, whatever. I know what I'm doing. But it was just like miracle after miracle God kept. It was hard. Like all of a sudden I was like, I was still on my knees and I just said, God, I was like, whatever you want from me, I'll do it. I was like, my way is not working. Your way is so much better than my way. I'm like, I just want you to take over. I'm done. Like, I'm done with it. And anything that is going to hinder this ministry, like, I'd become so passionate about Whole Way House. I kid you not, that guy dying just, like, changed my life. And seeing people who were hurting and suffering every single day and living in shame, I was like, no. I'm like, there's more than this. I know there is. And so I just said, anything, God, that's hindering this ministry, anything that I'm doing in secret, anything that I'm covering up, expose it. Like, get it out of my life. I don't want it anymore. I'm done. And I knew I could not do what God had called me to do if I was still dabbling in the world, if I was still keeping one foot in, if I was still lukewarm. I knew it was disgusting. Like, I wanted to spit it out of my mouth. And so that year, 4 things were taken from me. But the first was smoking, and it was just because that was something I held on to so tightly. I started at 11. I was 30 when I quit smoking, so I smoked for 19 years. That was like last week, whatever. I'm still 30. I'll let you do the math. And it went, and I had to make a decision. Like, I had to talk it out with God. I'm like, all right, if I'm going to do this, so you're going to do it with me. I'm like, this is not my idea, so let's do this. And he did. And the second was partying. As I said, I was a little Granville Street bar star. And I was like, I knew it wasn't glorifying to God. I knew it wasn't good for me. I wasn't, living for God. And it was holding me back. And then the third, I was in a relationship that was not godly. It wasn't honoring God. It wasn't honoring to me. And I had to give that up. And that was hard. Like, it was super, super hard. If you've ever been in love, like, it sucks. And there's a lot of crying, and there's a lot of Kleenex and all the rest, and phone calls to your girlfriends. I'm like, oh, this is the worst. But I got through it. And through that time, he just kept giving me these miracles that would give me like this little push forward. It was like every time I would start to feel discouraged, and I didn't want to do it again because there's so many discouraging things in the downtown east side. I would get a miracle. One of my favorite ones, I will tell you the story of Mark. There's this guy named Mark, and I would see him every single day. And for some reason, there's just some people who kind of stand out to you, right? Like, he just kind of had my heart. Mark always wore this puffy blue jacket, even in the summer, and it was always covered like with food. There was always food down here, and his hair was like long, and it always was forward, like the girl from Brady Bunch. Not that I'm old enough to know what the Brady Bunch is. And it was always down like this. And Mark struggled with mental health issues for sure. But every day I would just like, hi, Mark. And I would kind of wave, and he would barely look up at me. He would never like look me in the eyes, and he would just kind of like, hey, like, but I could never really hear him. And I remember our very first games night, Mark came, and I was really surprised because like, you don't talk, so cool. But he played Jenga, and that was great. And the guys were really good to him, and they were patient with him. And he would always pull the one block, like the one single one that obviously is going to knock the whole thing over. But it was good. He was playing, he was engaging. So I'm like, cool. Then a couple weeks later, we had a music night, and so I was paying attention to the guy who's playing guitar, and there was a conversation happening behind me. And at first, like, it caught my ear because they were talking about politics, and I don't usually allow them to talk about politics. But then I was like, they were having like a good conversation. It was really smart, and they weren't arguing or anything. And I was like, but who is that? Like, I didn't recognize the voice at all. So I turn around, and I'm like, Mark? I'm like, what? Like, you can't even say hi to me, and you're having a full-on conversation. I'm like, okay, no, that's good. Like, he made a friend. I'm so excited. And his hair's still filthy. I swear it's never been washed. And his jacket for sure. And so I was like, okay, cool, that's progress. Like, we're seeing progress for sure. And then a couple weeks later, it was a Tuesday morning, I'll never forget, he walked to the front door. And where my desk was, I could see through the glass, like, to the front door. And I kid you not, time slowed down into slow motion. He opened the door, and his hair blew in the wind like a Pantene commercial, and is sparkling clean. Like, it was like Cindy Crawford hair. Like, he's just, I swear he did one of these. Like, he was just like, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So I jump out of my desk, and I go running out to catch him, and I think I kind of startled him because he's, shy and quiet. And I was like, hey, Mark, buddy. And I'm like, how do you ask someone this, right? Like, I don't want to embarrass them, but I was like, what happened? I'm like, where were you? His jacket's still filthy, by the way, but his hair is sparkling. I'm like, you look great, man. Did you go to the barber? And he's like, no. And he kind of looks up at me, and for the first time looks me right in the eye. He's like, I washed my hair and took a shower this morning. He's like, we have games night tonight, right? And I was like, yes, we have games night tonight. And I was just like, it was just this miracle to me. And to somebody else that might seem stupid, but I was like, it was a miracle, like legit. The guy knew he had friends to hang out with and people to see, and that he had value enough to take care of himself. Like, that's huge, right? Like, I still love Mark. He's amazing. So it just was all these things that God kept giving me. One time he gave me garbage can lids. I won't even get into that story. I could tell you a million stories of the cool miracles God did in my life. But really, that's what kept me going through those hard times. And I realized, like, my control freak in me, I don't want it. I don't want to control things anymore. I can give it to him. When we first started Hawaii House, as I said, we didn't have anything. I'd never started a charity before. And God just was like, boom, 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 gave us everything that we needed. Chelsea Watkins, approached me one day, and she's like, hey, like, I'm a graphic designer. She's like, do you guys need a logo? And I'm like, what? I'm like, yeah, we do. So that was designed by Chelsea. She was amazing. And then a girl that we went to high school with came up, and she's like, I'm a lawyer now, like a super successful Bentall building lawyer. And she's like, do you want me to work pro bono for you? And I'm like, yeah. And then we got an accountant pro bono. We got free cooking classes at the Dirty Apron. Our website was built by a web designer. And one day he came and took me out for coffee, and he pulls out his phone. He's like, I hope this is okay. And he built me an app. I'm like, what? Like, are you kidding me? And it's like, I cried probably for 3 years straight just with all the cool things. Oh, I still all the time. My God amazes me. But it kept reminding me why we could do this. Like, God was just going to take care of it. And what I realized was, if it was God's idea, then I can hold him to it. I'm like, this was not my idea. Like, for sure, believe me, this is not where I thought I would be when I was 35. This was not my plan. And so when God came out with this purpose for me and I said yes, then at every step of the way I can be like, all right, God, like, how are you going to provide for this one? Let's see. And he comes through every time. You want to know why? Because he said he would. Like, his word will not return void. And so it's been so cool. And I don't know your name, but for the girl from Relate Church talked about Romans 8:28, and I'd heard that verse my whole life, that all things would work together for good for those who are called according to his purpose. And it finally became real. Like, I was like, no, this is legit. Like, this is real. Like, he will work out bad things, and he will turn them to good things for you. But the purpose part is so important. And so I finally was living on purpose, and all this time, again, we're still dealing with cancer. I'm accompanying my dad to the cancer clinic every time he flies up to Canada. We're going in for surgeries, and 4:30 in the morning, I'm at Burnaby General, and he's getting another piece of his leg cut out. We're going through all these things, and it's heartbreaking. There's just times where I'd be curled up in a ball, just bawling my eyes out. My dad, I can't even tell you how cool my dad, honestly, he was the coolest. He used to take me on dates. My dad used to take me out for, when I was a little girl, I'd get all dressed up in a dress, and he'd, open my door and open the car, and then we'd go for escargot on White Rock Beach, and I felt so fancy. But he was amazing, and so this was so heartbreaking. But it was like God was setting me up for success. Like, he was, through Hawaii House, setting everything up. And, oh my goodness, is that the time? Oh, sorry. Okay, so when my dad passed away, I had a choice. It was like my world could either crumble and fall, and I could go back to my old ways and go for the things that used to comfort me, or I could lean on God and lean into this. And honestly, my dad passed away in the first year that we started Hawaii House, and it was like, honest to God, I mean, no joke, if it hadn't been for Hawaii House, I don't know, would I have become an alcoholic? Would I have just partied my life away? I don't know. It was so painful. I didn't know I could feel that kind of pain. And every day having a purpose, and the fact that I got to get up and help people and serve was incredible. I remember one day I was still in the depths. It was so hard. And like if you've ever lost someone close to you, grief is just like such a cloud and it comes in waves. And I was still at the stage where at any given moment I could just burst out crying. Like I'd be like walking down the street and I'd be and just like it would just come out and you're like snot everywhere. And so I felt the Holy Spirit asking me to serve at church. And I was like, huh? I'm like, no, that's ridiculous. Obviously I can't because I can just start crying. And also, that's dumb. Like, can't I just be selfish right now and lay in my bed and cry? And I still work in the downtown east side every day. And it wouldn't leave me alone. And the Holy Spirit just kept, I'm like, fine. I'm like, fine, God. I will serve coffee one Sunday a month. And it has to be the 11 o'clock service because I don't want to get up for the 9. And I was like, so I put all these conditions. I like email the girl, and she's like, oh, hey, wonderful, da-da-da. And she's all coastal churchy and super friendly. And I'm like, okay, great, da-da-da. And she's like, but Jenny, sorry, just one thing, I can't find you in our system, for the Connect course. And I'm like, when I used to serve, I think because we'd all come from Victory together, and which is now Relate. I think I was just kind of grandfathered in. I used to volunteer. I'm like, but if you want me to do it, I'll totally do it. And she's like, oh, no, let me get back to you. So she goes past her Cheryl, and she's like, she writes me back. She's like, no, you're totally right. She's like, yeah, Pastor Cheryl said that's great. But Pastor Cheryl said, with your experience and what you do in your work and I think it would actually be better instead of serving coffee, you'd be more in your gifting if you would help us lead the volunteers and like be the volunteer leader. I'm like, are you now I'm pissed. Now I'm like, okay, God, like that's not even fair. I said I would serve coffee and put on a fake smile and be like, here you go, have a happy Sunday. No, it didn't happen. I was like, crap. So I was like, okay, fine, yes, I will do it. And I did, and I promise you, it is what got me through grieving. Every single time I served, it was like God catapulted me to like another level of healing. If you are going through something, let me tell you, find where you can serve. You will find your purpose in that, but also your healing will come through it incredibly. I just have to tell you that it blew me away. I was in shock. And it was just like, again, God knew better. His ways were higher than my ways. His thoughts were higher than my thoughts. I would not have thought to serve while I was grieving. Like, it just seemed like the most ridiculous idea to me. But I also realized, too, that as God kept moving Whole Way House forward, opportunities kept opening up. And it wouldn't have been able to happen had I not given up those things that he asked me to give up. And believe me, that's still daily. It doesn't just go away. God delivers. Like, I don't crave cigarettes anymore, but there's still those daily walks where you're tempted to stumble, and I would not have been able to. So I live a new double life. It's kind of funny. I was going through all this with my parents and working with them, and so I was down in Orange County. I remember in the same day, I'm like working in the back alley, and then I'm running late for the airport. I've got to catch a flight down to LA, so I'm running through YVR, and I'm like in slow motion. I'm like, I have a weird life, and because I'm on my way to go fly down to like Gene Simmons' house to do an interview with him and Shannon and hang out in their office. I think I have a picture of, that's my dad, by the way, that guy there with Gene. And then in the next time I'm like down there, I'm on the Real Housewives of Orange County because we're helping them save their marriage, which is drama. And then who else? I'm friends with Katy Perry's parents, which is my mom and dad. We're really good friends with them. And so like hanging out at parties with Katy Perry. And then I like come back here and I'm like in my chucks and I'm like watching people shoot up and trying to help them. And so I had this double life, but the cool thing now is both of them are so on purpose. Like everything that I get to do for God. And like, I don't have to serve God. I used to have this mentality like, okay, I really should. And like, okay, I should do this. And now I'm like, no, dude, like I get to work with God. Like, is that not the coolest boss? I'm like, so I found my purpose. All these things I would not have been able to, and that's another celebrity right there, Pastor Dave. We got to go on the radio together. Woo woo! You guys, like, we get to go to Coastal Church. We get to sit under amazing leadership. And if you're from another church, like, that's an incredible gift, and not everyone can say that. And so, but I know God would not have been able to use me while I was still tiptoeing, kind of like dating him. I had to get in there. I had to commit. I was like, put a ring on it, yo. Because I was like, I want in. Like, I want to be a part of this. And it's incredible. I see miracles all the time, and more than just split pea soup miracles, like for real miracles. But I just want to tell you, and I'll just end on this. When that guy died, his name was Jean-Francois, and he was a real person. He had a real family. I got to meet his family. I got to actually even stay with them when I went to France. He was from France. His mom had committed suicide when he was a kid. His dad passed away when he was a teenager, and then his brother committed suicide. He just suffered so much loss, and I think the easiest thing for him to do was just isolate, like just get away from it all. And so that was really hard. Within 4 years, we started building this community at Holway House, and we saw amazing things and just lives, guys coming together and supporting each other, visiting each other in the hospital, helping each other out, helping us and volunteering. And in 2016, there was a guy named Ron. He used to scare the living crap out of me. It's like all tattooed. You know the prison tattoos because they're like done by hand, and they're kind of like greeny gray, and he was covered in them, and he was super angry. But he started coming to Holway House, and he was the guy that said, I got a job because of you. He came to me with tears in his eyes. And actually, his daughter she's one of the owners of Ask for Luigi and Pizzeria Farina, Poorhouse, and that whole restaurant group. And we became really close. He passed away, and that was so hard on me. Oh my gosh, my phone is on. It was so hard on me because he became such a huge part of our community that it just broke my heart. He was like family to me. So we held a memorial service for him like we do for anybody who passes away at Holway House. And this was one of those moments where God just like kind of gave me that moment. He was like, this is what it was all for. The room was so full. We had like to bring more chairs. There was only people standing. And it was incredible to see how in that short amount of time God created like family. Like this guy died knowing that he was loved. I had many opportunities to pray with Ron, and he was incredible. And so it's been an incredible journey, but I truly know that it was that moment of surrender, that moment of laying down what I thought my life would be, and giving up those things that I thought would bring me pleasure, would bring me joy. Like, let me tell you, I wish I had listened to all those people who stood on stages before and said, it's not worth it. Like, we all read the Amazon reviews. We all do that. I'm like, I'm going to give you the Google review on the devil. It's not good. Like, it sucks. It's not what you're signing up for. And honestly, I can just tell you every single day I wake up saying, God, what do we get to do today? Like, isn't that awesome? Like, when you live on purpose for God, it's literally such an adventure. And like, He's so faithful. He will walk you through it. And those things that I struggled to give up, He helped me with them. Every step of the way. And I know it's not easy. And some of you, while I was praying for tonight, I just really felt that there are some of you who are struggling to let go of some things that you know are holding you back from your calling. You know they're holding you back from your purpose. And I'll tell you, God has such a purpose for your life. Like, each and every one of us has something. We have a calling. And I always tell people, like, you do you. Like, don't compare to someone else's purpose. God has something so special for you, like something so, He built you for that purpose, literally. That's the reason you're here. And I just want to encourage you. So if that's you, I just encourage you. You probably feel that nervousness in your stomach, or I just encourage you to like offer that up to God tonight and just say, I'm ready to let it go, because there's nothing better. Like, just so nothing better than walking with God. And so I want to pray for you guys tonight, if that's okay. And if that's you, if you just feel like there's something you want to let go of, I encourage you to even like hold your hand. Maybe you're a control freak like me, and your hand has been like this, and you've been holding it in a fist. And maybe it's partying. Maybe, I don't know what you're facing. Maybe it's a relationship that you know isn't honoring God, and it's holding you back from living your true purpose. Maybe you're scared to let it go because that's all you know. And that was me. Like, that's what I knew. And what would I do without it? And I just want to encourage you. God will walk through that with you. And I want to pray for you. If you'd close your eyes, and if that's you, I just want you to kind of hold your hand in a fist, and I want you to think about those things that you've been holding on to, maybe those things that you felt have been holding you back, but you've been too scared to give up. And so, Father God, I just lift up every person who's here tonight, God, that maybe they don't recognize that you have a purpose for them, or maybe they've been searching for what your purpose is for their lives. God, I just pray right now, Lord, that you would give revelation all over this room, Father. I pray that you would tug on those hearts and just show them, God, that you are there to walk it out with them, God, that you will replace it with something so much better. Lord, I pray for those who are struggling with maybe it's texting, inappropriate texting, God. Maybe it's porn, Lord. Maybe it's sneaking around. God, I just pray that right now, we know that you break chains, Father. So I just pray that there would be freedom in this place, Lord. I pray that we would be able to commit ourselves to you, God. I pray that God, I just pray that there would be commitment here. Make a decision, as Pastor Chris said, Father. If you want to do that right now, I just encourage you, even under your breath or in your heart, to just repeat this prayer. Father God, I want to live for you. I want to live on purpose. I want to be your legacy. I'm your child. So, Lord, I give you my life, and I make a decision to choose to live for you. And while your eyes are closed, if there's anybody here who maybe doesn't know God, who doesn't know that there's a Father out there who loves you, who has a purpose and a plan for your life, I want you to know that he's there and he's waiting for you. He won't force himself in. He won't push his way, but he's waiting for you. He's chasing you. It's obvious because you're here tonight. That's evidence right there that God wants you to be with him, to be close with him. So if that's you, you can just repeat after me in this prayer in your heart or under your breath. Say, Dear God, I thank you for what you did when you sent Jesus to die on the cross for my sins. And I just pray that you would be a part of my life, that you would guide me, that you would be my Lord and Savior. And Father, I thank you that you will walk this journey with me, that you will give me a purpose, and that you have a plan for me. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.